Hey yo, what's up everybody? Good day to you all, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Matrix Investing, the number one YouTube channel that is dedicated towards giving you education based on investing in capital markets. Now in this video, we're going to look at the debt to equity ratio for banks, the cause to why this ratio is large, and how to identify banks which still do well and deserve your capital for investment. If this is the first time you're watching our videos, we also advise you to check out our previous videos so that you can have a better understanding of what we're teaching. If you also find this video of much help, we then ask that you help us out by liking this video, subscribing to our channel in case you haven't, and hitting that notification bell so that YouTube gets to notify you each time we upload videos into the platform. Now with that said, ladies and gents, let's get down to business. In the previous video, we discussed about the debt to equity ratio and so its importance when performing stock analysis, as well as the demonstration of how this ratio can be applied. We talked about the standard limit for the debt to equity ratio of a well-performing business, of which we said is 0.8 or 80% as the maximum result, which meant for every 1 shilling of equity, the business should have at most 80 cents in debt. However, we did mention that there are some institutions, such as banks, which are an exception of the standard limit of the D/E ratio, due to the fact that they naturally carry a lot of debt, but despite that, they can still be suitable for investing. Now, today we shall be looking at these institutions, particularly banks, why they have a lot of debt, and how we can identify as to whether they're suitable for investing or not. So in this video, we're going to observe 3 banks that have been listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, of which are CRDB Bank, KCB Bank, and NBB Bank. So I'll start by looking at the debt to equity ratio for these companies. So starting off with CRDB Bank, I shall head on to the statement of financial position, which is right over here, and we're going to take that total liabilities right there, which is 5,724,179,000,000 Tanzanian shillings. Remember, it's in millions. And we're going to divide it by 873,069,000,000 Tanzanian shillings, which represents the total equity. So I shall take 5,724,179,000,000, and I shall divide this by 873,069,000,000, and the result I'm gonna get is 6.55 or 655% if I were to multiply by 100%, indicating that for every 1 shilling of equity, the bank is 6 shillings and 55 cents in debt. So I shall head on to KCB Bank and let's go check out its statement of financial position. So right over here, we're just gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna take 768,831,000,000 Kenyan shillings. This is in K shillings, by the way. This is a Kenyan company that has been listed in the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, but its headquarters, its main branch, all its important and crucial operations are done in Kenya. This is a Kenyan company that is also listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange as well as the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So everything we're going to see here is mostly going to be Kenyan related. So we're going to take that total liabilities right there and we're going to divide it by 129,741,000,000 as total equity, and the result we're going to get is 5.92 or 592%, meaning that for every 1 Kenyan shilling of equity, the bank is 5 Kenyan shillings and 92 cents in debt. Now, I understand that there might be some concerns that, hey, the currency we're using here is different from the currency we're using in CRDB and NMB, for the case that this one is in K shillings, the other one is in T shillings. Don't worry, none of that matters. This concept is applicable to all currencies. Like, there isn't any sort of adjustment for currencies. The concept is still the same. So worry not right over there. And lastly, we shall head on to NMB Bank and we shall head on to its statement of financial position. So pulling out our calculator again, we're going to take 5,448,325,000,000, and we're going to divide this by capital and reserves attributable to owners of parents. That is the total equity that concerns us. Of course, there's the total equity, which comprises of the non-controlling interest equity. Now, the non-controlling interests have got nothing to do with us. That's just another, that is a group of people who have a certain percentage of ownership into a subsidiary of one of NMB's businesses. So that amount of equity right there has got nothing to do with us. What has something to do with us is the capital and reserves attributable to owners of parents. So I'm just going to divide this total liabilities right here with that figure. So that's 965,521,000,000, and the result I'm going to get is 5.64 or 564%, which means that for every 1 shilling of equity in NMB is equal to 5.64 5 shillings and 64 cents of debt. So let's figure out the reason. Why is there such a very huge large D to E ratio? So figuring out the reason as to why banks have a large liability in comparison to equity. The main cause that we can see from these 3 banks, and in normal cases most banks, is deposits from customers. So let's look at the liability section right here. We can see the list, and out of all of these liabilities, we can see the biggest liability is deposits from customers for CRDB. If we're to head on to KCB, we can see the same thing. Deposits from customers has the largest contribution of liabilities, and if we're to head on to NMB, we can still see the same thing. Deposits from customers is the largest liability. So just to show you how serious this is, we're going to take the deposits from customers and we're going to divide it by the total liability so that we can see how much has it made up to the total liabilities. So starting with CRDB, we're going to take 5,202,247,000,000, and we're going to divide this by 5,724,179,000,000, and the result we're going to get is 0.9088. If we're to multiply this by 100, it's 90.9%. So deposits from customers from CRDB, they have made up 90.9% of the total liabilities available. If we're to head on to KCB, we're just going to take again the deposits from customers, which is 686,583,000,000, and we're going to divide this by 768,831,000,000, and the result we're going to get is 0.893 or 89.3%. So these deposits have made up 89.3% of the total liabilities. And lastly, NBB Bank, where we can see it is deposits from customers are equivalent to 4,916,551,000,000. Divide that by the total liabilities, which is 5,448,325,000,000, and the result we're going to get there is 90.2%. So that is the total deposits from customers have made up 90.2% of the total liabilities. Now, why is deposits from customers making such a huge contribution, such a very huge impact on the total liabilities? Now, the main reason behind why customer deposits make up a huge portion of the total liabilities is simply because one of the bank's main services is to keep customers' money deposits. Such deposits are assets to the customer, which is why even in several statement of financial positions we've covered in the previous videos, we've seen that the bank balances of companies are listed as current assets. Now, to the bank, those assets, the amount, the bank balance that we had been seeing around from all these previous case studies, all these previous companies, those bank balances may be assets to those individual companies because they do own that amount of money in the bank account. But to the bank, that is a liability. Such money deposits are liabilities. Why? Because this money isn't owned by them. Their job is simply just to safekeep it. Now, another characteristic of a liability is that just like equity, it can be used to finance a business. But the difference is equity is owned by the owners of the business, and liabilities are money or money worth that have been borrowed by the business for a specific period of time, or to be used by the business for a specific period of time. Now, in most cases, to expand the business, that's why we see customer deposits in the liability section, because banks use these deposits to perform its business activities such as offering loans, and of which we know if it offers loans, it gets interest as income, and that helps expand its business. But this money isn't necessarily owned by the owners of the bank. It simply doesn't belong to them. So, when trying to figure out a bank that can perform well or not, we simply look at the same features we've been talking about in our previous videos, as well as incorporating some of the financial metrics we've taught so far and which we will teach in the future. So, the bank that shows the most traits of a well-performing company with the least amount of debt to equity ratio in comparison to the other banks is the best bank suitable for investment. So for example, from these three banks we've seen here, we've seen CRDB, KCB, and NMB. So from these three banks, we've seen that NMB has the smallest D2E ratio in comparison to CRDB and KCB. Now, if NMB were to show better traits in other financial aspects such as excellent growth and returns of profits and equity, consistent and growing payments of dividends, and all that stuff, which we have already talked about in a long period of time perspective, 10 years, in comparison to CRDB and KCB, then NMB would be the better choice to go for as far as investing is concerned. With that said, ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. If this video has been useful to you, we then ask that you help us by hitting the thumbs up button, liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting that notification bell so that YouTube gets to notify you each time we'll upload more videos like these into the platform. Share these videos to your buddies. Sharing is caring and knowledge is power, so that they can also benefit from this video just like you. If you're on social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, don't forget to check us out there. Our account name is Matrich Investing. The links to our social media accounts are in the description below. We provide content related to investing in the Tanzanian capital markets on a daily basis, so don't forget to follow, like, share, and comment. If you also have questions or opinions to contribute, feel free to do so on the comment section below, or DM us on our social media accounts. We're only a DM away and we'll be happy to respond. So anyways, thank you all so much and have a great day.